Hey, everybody. Welcome to our class on a Monday evening that is a Memorial Day for my American students. And I just decided, I hope you don't mind, that you all deserve a break. And so this is a pre-recorded video that I'd like you to watch that talks about getting into the right mindset to be selling. And you may have noticed that this is something that I touch on throughout all of our conversations when we're having our one-on-ones, whenever I'm doing classes like this. If you ever attended any of my webinars, anything like that, I even try to talk about it in my lives that I do. And what this is, so you may not know this, but when I first decided to go into business for myself, after I left my corporate gig last year, I actually had planned on becoming a mindset coach. And the reason I had done that is because, or the reason I wanted to do that is because I kind of knew in my bones that that's kind of the drum that I'm constantly beating. And by that, I mean, we all have this one thing that people seem to know us for, this one topic we're always talking about. And, it's interesting because as much as I know about selling and teaching you the steps and how to do it and so on, when I first decided to go into business for myself last fall, my very good friend Tanya and we decided we were going to do this together. And at that time, when we were kind of trying to figure out what will our areas of specialty be, who's going to talk about what, because really her thing's all about, building relationships, maintaining that relationship, making sure you're doing your follow-ups. That's kind of like, that's her genius zone when it comes to building business. It's about continuing to keep the relationship going. And when we worked together, one of the things that I always admitted to was that my weakness is in the follow-up. And the reason for that is I figure, oh my goodness, I gave you so much information up front and I answered every possible question and I asked all of the questions and I let you walk away believing in your own, I have the tools I need to make my decision. And so for me, the follow-up was always this kind of like, oh yeah, I got to get to that. Oh yeah, I got to get to that. Oh yeah, I got to get to that. And the fact is, as the person running the business, I was thinking to myself, holy shit, Danielle, like seriously, you know the importance of this. How could you have just let that go? Now, in fairness, the position that I'm talking about, I was only in it for like 6 months. So it's not like I totally let the company fall to pieces. And we did have the most successful office in the chain at that time. So I was doing something right. So the lack of follow-up and what I used to think of as chasing people, the lack of doing that, really wasn't that harmful to our business at that time. But when we were talking about all of that, one of the things that she said to me that was really revealing for me, and at first I don't know how I took it, and I think I've gone through this belief that at times I felt like, oh, well, absolutely, that was a great compliment, and other times I felt like, oh, wow, that was actually quite an insult. Today I'm on it was quite a compliment. There you go. So if you get that too, where you kind of go, oh, it was good, it was bad, it was good, it was bad, it's good as bad. You're not alone. We all get that. We kind of continue to mull things over. Anyway, what she said to me was, Danielle, I know you think you teach people how to sell, but that's not what you teach them how to do. And I thought, what? I've been doing that for like 25 years. That better be what I do because that's what they've been paying me hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. So I I kind of thought, wow, I guess I was not doing, I lived with this imposter syndrome my entire life of believing that someday somebody was going to realize I wasn't as good as they thought I was. And here comes this friend of mine telling me, well, I see it, you're not as good as you thought, but that's not what she meant. What she meant was, sure, I can teach you the very specific steps to selling. I can teach you what to say, when to say it, how to say it. But what needs to happen before you learn what to say, how to say it, when to say it is, it's in here. I actually started writing a book about this in March. So I will be getting that published this summer. I've actually just signed up with a coach that's going to help me get that done. So mindset going into selling is actually more critical than being able to write a script. It's more critical than knowing when to ask the right questions. Um, it's more than that pushy. I don't know. It's just, I think this is one of the reasons I've been so successful in selling for so many years, especially after coming into it with such a rocky start. So if you don't know this about me yet, and you will, because I'll talk about this actually quite a bit. When I was younger, I thought that I had my whole life laid out in front of me. I knew exactly what it was that I was going to need to do in my life. I actually had intended to go to university to become a director. And by director, I mean like movies, theater, a director. I had been accepted into the most prestigious program in Canada. I was very, very excited. And then time came to actually send in my money. And I'm like, okay, mom, okay, dad, tuition, please. And they were like, we told you we're not paying for university. And I was like, ah, so I had to give that up. Anyway, so at that moment, my whole life changed. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to make this money and I need to make this money fast if I want to be able to get in. And as I was doing research at that time, and remember back then, we didn't really have the internet. Actually, we didn't have the internet. It was 1988. So we had the library, we had job banks, we had those kinds of things. And so it was actually going to a job bank that I found this position with an insurance company called North American Life. And ironically, I did go back and work for them in a more admin capacity a few years later, but that's another story for another day. So here I am, I'm 19 years old. I have secured a full-time position. I'm a manager at a Burger King locally, which, hello, would you want an 18-year-old being your boss? Anyway, I guess I was 19. So I went to the job bank looking for a way to start to make money, because I thought, okay, if I can't go to Ryerson anymore, I'm at least going to York next year, because they also sent me an acceptance. I knew Ryerson wouldn't let me in the second time, but I knew York would. So I was going to spend that year making gobs and gobs of money so that I wouldn't have to worry about paying for school. And it was while I was talking with the job center person, and they were talking to me about how really, if you need to make a lot of money, you need to do it fast. You need to get into sales. And so she showed me this insurance sales position, and it included all of the education you need. And as soon as she said school, I was like, hello, I love school. I love to learn. Teach me something new. I'm really good at this. This will be easy. And so I went into it with this thought that this was going to be easy. And it was. The school part was really easy because I do have a brain that takes in information and can process it quickly, and lots of complex ideas and push them all together. And I do have that brain. But what I didn't have at that time was emotional intelligence. What I didn't have at that time was this ability to step outside of myself and be a different person, to just get the job done. And going into a selling position when I was still so painfully shy, frankly, I don't know what this woman was thinking. She obviously didn't do a good job of matching my skills to an actual job, but that's another story for another day as well. Instead, what I did is I did go and take that job. And I did go to school for almost 6 months with them, learning all of the things I needed to learn to be able to get a license to sell insurance, which I expected to be able to make $1 million in my first year, because of course back then it was all over promise, under deliver. Welcome to the 80s. And you may have heard this part of the story before. So I did all of the courses. I was handed basically a list of hundreds of people's names and said, here you go, give them a call, make appointments. And so, and here's the script. Okay, so the first few, I promise you, I thought I was going to throw up the first few, but I did them anyway. And then of course they got easier. And so I continued, and I had like a full week worth of appointments booked for the following week, because that was going to be the day that my trainer was going to take me out and actually show me in the field. So it wasn't even like I was going alone. Like I wasn't even going alone. Day arrives. I've taken the Go Bus and everything over to the business, to the office. And literally that morning I had woken up, I felt totally sick to my stomach. I'd been totally freaking out. And I got to the office, and I don't even know why I went. because the whole way there, I was saying to myself, just don't do it. Just don't go. Just don't go. Just let him do it. Just let him do it. Just let him. And I had this thing going on and on and on in my head where I was telling myself, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. Well, if you've been following me for a while, and I know that you guys here in this course have been, you probably know that my favorite quote from a historical figure is the one from Henry Ford that goes like this: whether you think you can do a thing or whether you think you cannot, you're right. And I think I've also mentioned before that I think the first time I heard this quote, I was 13 or 14 years old, and it really struck a chord for me. And then you'll have, if you have known me for, a few decades, you'll go, wow, this quote, this idea has really manifested in my life quite vividly. There's been so many things in my life that I told myself I can't do. I can't do that. Oh, I can't get up on stage and sing in front of a crowd. Oh, I can't go for that job. I don't have the education. Oh, I can't run. I told myself that for decades, that I can't run. And then in my 40s decided, you know what, sure I can. Got myself learning how to run. And look at that. I could run a whole mile without stopping. My asthma didn't kill me. Like there's just so many things. And maybe as I'm talking here, because this really is coming a lot off the top of my head rather than being prepared, I do have some notes, but really they're going to be like talking points, kind of look down and go, oh yeah, right, I was saying that A is for authenticity. So I guess this is what I really want to talk about. It really is about that notion going into something about what is possible. So I know a lot of people that come and work with me, they really get it in their head that they can't sell. They really get it in their head that the only way to sell is to do these gross, icky things that people talk about all the time, like the old-fashioned boys club. If you're a WKRP in Cincinnati fan, then Herb Tarlick, he's the epitome, right, of the point and click kind of sales guy, which I just love. I love that archetype. I just love it. WKRP, highly influential in my life. I make a lot of jokes that are WKRP related. But if you think about it, a lot of us have grown up with this idea that that's what it takes to be in sales. It takes those greasy, haired, slimy, leisure suity, point and click, ding off the teeth, smile. It takes a lot of that schmoozy, fake, I'm trying to come up to say it without saying salesy, because that word has a negative connotation. And so we talked at one point in another course, and it was the empathic communication course. Let me know if you would like me to send you the replay of that, because actually a lot of what we're going to talk about now really kind of ties into that. And so, it's about that idea, can I or can't I? And we all have these beliefs that we create in our own mind. And they often come from things that our parents said, that the village that we were raised by have said around us. Yesterday, I was on the phone with my dad, and he decided he was going to break out of the hospital, which just cracks me up. You're a grown man, Dad. They can't make you stay. So at 1:30 in the morning, the man got out of bed in the hospital, took all of his things off, and walked out the door, just literally walked out the door. Anyway, so a tangent. So as I'm sure you can imagine, I went off on some weird tangent that I needed to actually edit right out, because it totally was irrelevant to what we're talking about. So if I can go back, I actually had to go back and watch and listen to remember what the hell I was talking about. So I was talking about my dad and talking with my dad on the phone yesterday before I went off about him escaping from hospital. So talking about those beliefs that your parents give you, my dad yesterday, as we were talking about something and I was explaining my opinion about something, because he was curious and he had been previously afraid to ask. It was interesting as we were talking about this kind of sociopolitical idea that he then inserted this statement: money is the root of all evil. Right? Money is the root of all evil. So what I want to talk to you about today is, what are your beliefs? Because selling is harder when you have beliefs like that, right? If you have beliefs that are rooted in this notion that salespeople are gross, salespeople are sleazy, salespeople are pushy, salespeople are manipulative, salespeople are only after one thing, salespeople don't really care about you, they just want your money. I'm just trying to come up with a bunch off the top of my head right now. I know that each of you have these things that go on inside your head about money and what being wealthy means, what having money come easily means. You have these ideas about trading time for money, working an hourly wage rather than looking at the outcome and understanding its value and pricing according to that. So today, what I really want you to do, and if you haven't done this yet, then this is quite an easy piece of homework. It really is a fast read. Today's homework is to read The Abundance Mindset, and it's that free ebook that I've been offering in the group. The reason I want you to do that is because there are actually some exercises in this book that are going to help you to kind of get to the root of what some of the money beliefs are that you have. And most often, it's actually money beliefs that create the barriers in our ability to sell. So if I were to say to you that having a sales mindset is all about being authentic, and I'm going to put my notes here now so that I can kind of give them a quick look. It's all about being authentic, right? It's all about creating an aligned agreement with your potential customer about taking action. But you want to do that in a way that feels completely authentic, right? You don't want that gross feeling in your body, that one where the nerves start, where the anxiety attack starts. That happens when we're not being authentic and when we don't believe in what we're offering. So the first two steps, the first two things you need to do, and the third one as well, because we're going to go to C as well. So ABC, the ABCs of having a great sales mindset are: start with authenticity, because your goal is to create this aligned agreement with your potential buyer to take action. You want them to take action. Here's the thing. The next thing is believe. So how do you feel? What do you believe about what it is that you are selling? If you don't believe in it, if you don't believe it's worth it, if you don't believe it's going to get the outcome, if you don't believe, if you don't believe in your own ability to deliver, if you don't believe that you can commit the time that you need to, if you have any doubts at all about yourself or the product that you're putting out, whether that is a physical product or whether that is a program or your own coaching services or a combination, it really doesn't matter. We need to look at what your beliefs are about that, about how valuable it is, about your own ability to deliver. Do you actually have any confidence in yourself and your ability to actually provide these results for people? Because if we're missing those first three things, and trust me, I got a list way down all the way to Z, right? A to Z, it actually goes along with my book. If you miss or don't have those first three things, you will struggle forever. It won't matter what script I help you write. It won't matter what transitional statements you learn. It won't matter that you learn to change the idea of expensive to investment. None of that matters if you don't have your authenticity, your belief, and your confidence nailed down. They're the most critical things in selling, believe it or not. It's not about the words you say and how convincing they are. Right? Trust me, I can sell sand to an Arab. I can sell ice to an Inuit man. I can sell water to a Polynesian. Like, really, I can. It's not about having the right convincing language. What is different is that I believe in what I'm selling. And now, as I'm selling my coaching, it's about believing in me. And I've got to be honest with you, as amazing as it is to me to have this much belief in my own self, because trust me, I'm as amazed as anybody else is. Until I got there, until I started, until it actually kind of landed in, and I believed, shit, I'm actually worth that money. In fact, I'm actually worth a lot more. It wasn't until I allowed myself to have that land and really drop in and sink and sit. I think it must have been a month and a half of really sitting with my new price, because I did raise my price in March. So to sit with that new price, and I actually went through a whole bunch of different exercises with myself, and it was specifically to help me to uncover what are my limiting beliefs around money, around success. I can tell you that in 2001, 2.5 months after Josh was born, I went to see our family psychic. Now, I got to be honest with you, Marilyn was like, she really did have a gift. I'll tell you one time, if you're interested about this particular session, and just the crazy things, right down to my father dying within a year. Sorry, my biological father, not my stepdad. My stepdad's still alive, but he's always just been my dad. My biological father died when I was 31. He's an alcoholic, so he died actually of his alcoholism or related issues. And she knew that he would be dead within the year. So we're talking about a woman who truly knew her things. And one of the things she said to me, and I carried this around for, well, let's see, I was 31, so that's 22 years ago. Oh, Josh was only 21, so it was 21 years ago. She said to me, you will never be wealthy, but you will never want for anything. You will always be comfortable. So you will never have to worry about, how did she put it? I can't remember. I just threw the audio cassette out just a couple of years ago. I wish I'd kept it for the sake of this. But she told me I would never be wealthy. I believed her. And I believed her because she had given me evidence to make her believable, right? Other things that had happened. And especially when those other things did actually come true. Then as I realized, I was like, oh shit, she's right. I am never going to be wealthy. So I gave myself this belief that I would always be hardworking. I would always have to work hard for my money, and that I'd always have enough, but I would never have excess. And if I look at that now, I can imagine actually that if I were to look at that with this more emotionally mature mind, I could go, actually, yeah, she's right. I will never have excess. And I won't have excess simply because I will always be doing something very valuable with any extra money that I have. I'm not one to buy a big fancy house. I'm not one to, have the big crazy fancy car and all the trappings of wealth. But I will have a 100-acre farm instead of a 40-acre farm. You know what I mean? Like, so, but it was almost as though her telling me you will never be wealthy. It was almost like, what a load off. Now I don't have to work as hard. And if you think back to whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. As soon as I took that belief and adopted it, wore it, and then said to myself, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I'm never going to be that wealthy. Therefore, I never have to work that hard to do that, because still at that time, I equated wealth equals hard work. That was what I believed. And that one comes from my parents. So this whole reason I want you to read through the abundance mindset, and I think, Teresa, you can attest to this, is because Teresa has actually started going through it. And there's some challenging questions in there that really cause you to get to the root of what it is that you really believe about money. But again, the reason I want you to do this is because it is your beliefs about money that are going to dictate how well you can sell. So if today's whole lesson is about having a sales mindset, then hopefully this is starting to, kind of come full circle in your understanding. Oh, I get it. Okay, so in order to have a sales mindset, I need to remove any blocks I have, any limiting beliefs I have about money. And the reason is that it's that money. It's actually, believe it or not, you would be amazed the number of people, particularly in, my generation and down to millennials, where we were raised with these ideas that money is the root of all evil. That, money doesn't solve problems. You can't buy happiness. Maybe you can. Maybe you can. What makes you happy? Does that thing that makes you happy, and with the women that I work with, what makes us happy is this greater purpose, this thing in our soul that says, I need to do better in the world. I need to make change in this world. We have so much more potential as a human race, and wasting it in this greed and this apathy and all of this other nonsense. So because I know that you have bigger things in the world that you want to do, these changes that you want to affect in the world, whether that is sustainability, emotional awareness, self-esteem, getting through trauma, having better gut health, like all of these things, they all relate to creating a better human race. And this is one of the reasons that I want to work with you, is because I know that you are about taking the human race, kind of raising our vibration a bit, in the sense that let's bring it closer to love and further away from hate, right? So we're all on this path to bring it toward love. Well, the fact is we still operate in a world that requires money to do things. So we still need to make money. But how do you feel about that money? If you do have any kind of residual belief that money is the root of all evil, as you're looking around the world, you're seeing some pretty shitty things happening right now. And I know some of you kind of have similar socio-political beliefs to mine. And you're looking at those things and you're thinking, man, it's just the rich that are making this, right? It's the rich that are doing this. It's the rich that are doing that. It's the rich that are doing this. So if you have these beliefs that it's the rich people that are causing all of our problems, my God, you will do anything to stop yourself from being a rich person. I think that makes sense, right? Because you don't want to be like that. You don't want to have to lump yourself into that. If that's what you believe, you're like, ooh, I got to do anything I can to keep myself away from that. So in order to be better at selling, we need to make sure that you have complete and total confidence in what you're offering. We need to believe that you are feeling completely authentic, because it's that authenticity that makes the nerves go away. When you actually believe, notice I'm saying authentic belief, confidence, authentic belief, confidence, authentic belief, confidence, authentic belief, confidence. I'm saying the same words over and over again. So those are the three critical keys to having a sales mindset. So this is why I want you to read the Abundance Mindset ebook that I have. And if you don't have a copy, I'm going to make sure that I include it. So depending on how I'm delivering this, I may just send it to you in an email, that same ebook, okay? Authenticity, belief, confidence. That's what we're trying to develop here. Beyond that, of course, I've got a whole bunch of others. D is decision making. So making decisions, in terms of being able to be in a sales mindset with decision making, it really is about kind of understanding the specific levers of a person's decision making process, and understanding that what is important to you to make decisions may or may not be important to somebody else. So it's a really, in that case, it's about opening up your mind and seeing beyond your own shell and your own walls. So it is about having a little bit of that kind of empathy, which is the next one, empathic communication. The other thing I think is really important, and of course, anybody you talk about who has any kind of spirituality, this is kind of like a buzzword right now, gratitude. Believe it or not, actually expressing and feeling gratitude is really a vital component, and feeling that, oh, how wonderful. So that when you wake up in the morning and you see that oh, look, I have no appointments. Well, at least I woke up, right? So it's not about toxic positivity, but it's about looking for the little things. Because if we dwell on the negative instead of the positive, if we dwell on the things that aren't going our way instead of the things that we're like, oh, thank goodness this did. So anything in your mind that you say, oh, thank goodness, those are the gratitude things that kind of relate to the sales things. So that intuition, that actually is a huge part, trusting your intuition, feeling aligned to that. Joviality, is that even a word? If I made up another word, but being jovial, using brevity, using levity, all of those wonderful things, having jokes. Humor is an incredible tool in selling, and being able to connect to your own humor and be, feeling secure and confident again, feeling confident, secure in your humor is really, really important. It goes along with the intuition. You want to have that confidence in your intuition. You want to have that trust in your intuition, because when you've got that trust, that's actually one of the things that allows you to be authentic. So do you see how they all kind of like tie into one another? And frankly, the root of it all, and it's the reason I offer that ebook, is the root of it all is actually this whole beliefs around money. The other thing, actually, look at that. So K is for kindness and ka-ching. L is for listen, right? Because I've said this many, many times. You got two of these and one of these, use them in that ratio. A lot of us have this tendency, I'll call it, because we see ourselves as the expert on our topic, we often, and I actually have even caught myself doing this in the last couple of weeks where I'm doing more talking than listening. That's never good. Never, never good. Always do a lot more listening than talking. And this is why we talked in the empathic communication course about the difference between open and closed questions, so that we can understand when to use one type versus another, because it really depends what stage in a conversation you're in. So listening, money, hello. Each side in any transaction expects that money is going to be exchanged unless you've got a barter thing going. And I do not don't want for 1 second for you to think that bartering is not a good thing. I'm a total fan of the barter system. So if that's what you've got going for you and you feel like that's a better option for you, I'm totally okay with that. So don't think that I'm just going to look at you and say, well, I'd rather barter. And I say, really, you don't want money? Oh my gosh, if you would rather barter and you've got people that are willing to do that and you're getting ahead in life as a result of that, whoo, let's eradicate money from the world, shall we? The next one, negotiation. So again, going to the open-mindedness, going to this notion of decision-making, all of selling is a negotiation, right? You're never fully right, and they're also never fully wrong. So you've got to be able to find the place in the middle that makes the most sense for both of you, because it's really about collaboration. Oops, you can't see my fingers. Selling is about collaboration. It's, hey, you've got this problem, I've got this solution. And you're saying, oh, well, your problem doesn't quite fit. And they're saying, oh, well, your solution doesn't quite fit. And maybe that's because it's too expensive for them. Maybe it's because of the time of day it's on. Maybe for you, it's because, well, you don't exactly have the prerequisites that I need. So you negotiate in between and you find the places that actually make sense. That's one way to look at negotiation. Another way to look at negotiation, of course, is in more corporate positions in particular, as you're building your business and you may be looking at collaboration opportunities with other businesses, you want to negotiate terms of contracts and those kinds of things. So having the open mind to be willing to do the negotiating instead of always believing you're right? Because you're not. Sorry, I don't care how perfect you are. You're not always right. I'm not always right either, in spite of what my son likes to tell people. But negotiation is a vital thing. And this is particularly important in the O, which is the objections. So some people talk about objections as something that you need to handle or overcome. Nope. You negotiate your way through them. And how you negotiate your way through them is actually done way back in the beginning with all of the information that you've gathered in the beginning of the sales conversation. That's when you actually start to bring that forward and start negotiating. So having the sales mindset, if you think that objections are something to be feared, we're not there yet. So we're going to go back to the ABC again about being authentic, because when you are authentic, right, you feel this deep belief and confidence in yourself, and you believe that that's a safe person to be, right? And if they don't like it, that's okay, because there's hundreds of others, thousands of others who will. That's where I'm trying to get you to. And I will be honest with you, again, let's go back once again to Danielle's early 20s and think of another strong influence. And my goodness, I really wish I could remember her name. She was this beautiful Scottish lady, and she always used to say, that's just great then. She and I, so when I did actually leave that company, left Burger King, and actually had already gotten married, moved out of the city, I think I'd already left. My first husband was abusive, and I was already living in a women's shelter, possibly even beyond that. And I had started Dopey Kid Originals, which was my company name. And at that time, I was using it as a way of getting through university. And because of the area that I lived in, and because of the skills that I specifically had, I actually used making and hand painting pottery as the primary method of earning money. And I used to sell that at a farmer's market called the St. Jacobs Farmers Market. It was one of the biggest ones in southwestern Ontario. Thousands upon thousands of people would come through every Thursday and Saturday. And this lady and I used to carpool to it. And she sold the most hideous t-shirts. I mean, seriously, they were hideous. And basically it was like abstract art that she had hand painted on. It was a lot of I watched her do them once. It was literally like a Jackson Pollock mess. People used to walk by all the time and say to her, oh my God, those are hideous. Oh my God, I could do that myself. Oh, this, oh, that. She goes, really? And she used to yell after them, yeah, I'm sure you could, but would you? I sell hundreds of these. You can have your own opinion, whatever you think. I don't care because I sell hundreds. So she wasn't bothered by the fact that these women had such negative. And I remember thinking, oh, because at the time, again, selling my own art and taking every single word that people would say as they passed by as a deep, wounding criticism of my product, of course, which meant they were deeply criticizing and rejecting me because I had produced it. Oh, I even now, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it was such a horrible way to feel. And I always used to look at Suzanne. Her name was Suzanne. I used to look at Suzanne and think, my God, I would love that kind of belief and confidence in what I'm selling. She really didn't care. And she did. She used to go home every day with like wads of cash in her hand. And I'd go home with like this tiny little thing. And I thought, well, how is that possible? My art is beautiful. It's painstakingly done. It's very precise. It's lovely. It's real art. What she does is just garbage on a t-shirt. How does she? And then she started doing hats and shoes and all, and she expanded. And she kept going home with gobs of money. And if I'd been paying attention at the time, I would have realized it was because of her attitude going into it. Whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, you're right. And so this is really what the whole sales mindset piece is all about. Let's continue on with our list, shall we? So P is for perspective and price. So I've already spoken with each of you about pricing, and Teresa, I know that you don't have a whole lot of control about that. Tiffany, I know you don't have control over the product price. But Cheryl, Amy, and Tiffany, you've all got the ability to kind of manage your pricing from the perspective of the portion that you provide as a coach, right? So if you don't believe in your price, if you don't think it's worth it, you won't command it. Your perspective, again, is that whole notion of when you come into it, what is your reality when you come into a situation? They say that perception is reality. Well, although we know that that's not exactly true, we know that it is for you. So if you think coming into it, my product is overpriced, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get a lot of price objections. So here's an interesting exercise for you as well, in addition to the abundance mindset. I want you to sit down and I want you to make a list of all of the objections people have given you, whether it's over this or in the past, if you've been trying to sell something in the past. Make a list of all of the specific kinds of objections you've received, right? All of the times and ways that people said, no, thank you. No, thank you. So whether it was that they wanted to go and talk to somebody else about it, whether it was that they said this is just too expensive, whether or not it was, I can't afford this, write them all down. And I want you to specifically remember the words that they used when they said it. And there's a reason I want you to do this, because we're going to be looking for a pattern, because quite often writing those things down, all of those objections, and when we try to be really as close to the original phrase as possible, and this takes work. This is not something you're going to do in 5 minutes, guys. This is an exercise that you may be adding to over the course of the next week. So don't try to rush through it. This is really, really important. And I usually like to start here, but starting here doesn't get you some money in the bank right away. It's really once we've already started to get your whole content machine going that I would say that this is most useful, except that you're starting to sell in your content, right? So if you are putting out content that actually still speaks to those old limiting beliefs, people read that. It comes through and it is in the specific language that we choose. So there's a bit of specificity that's needed for language, but we don't want to get too crazy with that specificity, okay? The next one, I bet you were wondering how she's going to come up with one for Q, X, and Z, weren't you? Hang on. Hold my beer, I think is the expression, hold my beer, because I got them for you. Okay, Q is easy. Questions, 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 questions. You may notice I ask a lot of questions. You may notice that even as I'm doing a group training session, I pose a lot of questions. What do you think of that? Why do you think that is? And so asking questions actually causes people to think things through in their own mind. And if they're rhetorical, that's also okay. Rhetorical questions definitely have a place in the sales process, but I want you to start more along the lines of open and close. We'll move into the subsets of open and close later, okay? And a rhetorical question is actually a closed question. So you ask those when you actually are trying to get a person to say yes or no, right? And there are different times when you get them to say both. Digress, digress, digress. As you know, I like my tangents, but hopefully I'll keep coming back. So questions. Questions actually help a person uncover, because your job as a salesperson is not to convince them. It's actually to dig in and to actually unearth some things that they weren't even aware of for themselves. So in my history, so let's talk about hearing for a second. In the hearing industry, I used to ask the question, so how does that make you feel? A person would say to me, oh, well, I'm here because my wife thinks I have a hearing problem, and she's constantly nagging me, and they use that kind of language to tell me about how they don't have a problem. Their wife thinks they have a problem. And I would say to them, okay, well, that's great. So Jane thinks you've got a problem. What do you think? Well, and then I would say, because of course they would deny, I don't have a problem. I hear what I want to hear. I hear exactly what I want to hear. Trust me, I hear as much now as I did then, because they're not aware. And we'll go on, I don't need to give you that detail. But so then I would say, well, that's really interesting that you have such a different opinion than Jane. How does that make you feel? Right. And sure, that's teasing out some information you may not feel equipped and comfortable to ask about. I do. So for me, it was an appropriate question to ask. And this is why having scripts, you'll notice that script is not my S word. I hate scripts. I used to get asked all the time to write scripts, and I hated it, because why would I write you a script? That's my words, not your words. Those are questions I'm comfortable with, not you. And this is why I think it's so important that we co-create your questions. So I would ask a lot of questions about, and how does that make you feel? And why do you think that is? Because I was trying to actually get them to go down, go down, go down, go down, until they got themselves down to the very root of their own problem. And then we could actually finally start talking. Once we got down there, not here where it was because the wife said so. If it's the wife, he's not going to solve it for the wife. Once I was able to get down to the root of how having hearing loss was making him feel, and once I got him to admit that actually it's worse than he likes to let on because he's embarrassed, and actually he feels like less of a man than he did 10 years ago when he could hear better, and he doesn't like to admit it because it means he's getting old. Do you see what I mean? So now that I understand those things, do you understand how I can, so you are concerned about feeling old. Oh, so you're concerned about being less virile. Oh, so you just don't like, you're embarrassed when you have to ask people to repeat. You wouldn't want them to know that you don't hear them as well. Do you see how now, instead of trying to talk about how we can solve the problem here by getting his wife off his back, now I can actually talk to him from a very different, much more meaningful place. I can talk to him now about how actually solving his hearing problem is going to make those issues go away. In fact, he won't be asking people to repeat themselves anymore. He can hide. He can hide the fact that he didn't hear it. And look at how discreet hearing aids. You see how it actually now I'm actually speaking to the things he himself was precisely concerned about, rather than the fact that it was his wife telling him that he had a hearing problem. I'm going to use a lot of hearing examples in this simply because it's the most recent experience I have. And this is really, it was in the hearing industry that I really solidified my process. Up until then, I was kind of following other people's processes in the sense of really sticking to the specific steps of selling and making sure that I hit every marker, because that's what a good salesperson does. And I was absolutely much more about overcoming objections back in what, 2013. Oh no, gosh, further back than that. 2008, I think that was, yeah. So going back that far, I was still very much about overcoming objections. And it wasn't until I moved into the hearing industry, I really, really found my authentic self. And suddenly sales became so bleeping easy. I can't even begin to express to you how super simple it became. I wasn't convincing anybody of anything. In fact, by the time we would get to the point in the conversation where I should have been saying, so what do you think? Would you like to buy hearing aids? They were saying, so they were saying to me, so do these come in silver and can I have them? Do you think I could have them this weekend? Hearing aids. Nobody wants to buy hearing aids. So I know that I'm speaking from experience that it was really about authenticity, belief, and confidence. Yes, all of these other things, decision-making, empathic communication, having fun, showing gratitude, being happy to help, using my intuition, showing integrity, being jovial, absolutely kindness, kindness, kindness. Kindness is king. But listening, understanding the money element of it, being open to negotiation, understanding the whole thing about objections, but also understanding in the objection part, I actually think I wrote down objective, not objection. Objective is whose goals are you trying to achieve here? It should be theirs, not yours, just a quick hint. Achieve their goals, not yours, because your goal is to make the sale. Their goal is to solve their problem. Perspective, price, questions, all of those things. But then we come to R, and R is about creating raving fans and referrals. So sustaining a business is never enough. We always want to grow, and we want to do that with the lowest cost base possible, right? So we want to keep our costs down. Marketing is our most expensive. Other than having a hard cost of goods for product, marketing is or should be our next biggest chunk of money that goes out if we don't have employees. So creating raving fans and referrals is an important part. And you do that by being your authentic self who believes in what you're offering and has confidence. And then all of the other letters of the alphabet that I've just gone through. That's how we get the raving fans and referrals, is by actually doing the things we said we're going to do, delivering on the promises that we've made, providing the results, solving the problem, all of those things. I have such an itchy nose today, excuse me. So you gotta love that, right? But that's how we create those raving fans and referrals. And it's once we're at the point where we do have raving fans and referrals, and I will say that the 4 of you that I've got in this little cohort, I know you're all raving fans of mine. You're raving fans. You've already referred people to me. Oh my gosh, that's my dream. That is absolutely my dream, that my clients will think that I'm so wonderful, that I've helped them so much that they actually trust me enough to refer other people. And they showed from the rooftops when they, I told you about this in another, I think it was possibly the very first week's course. And I talked all about all of those posts where people actually go on to post in other groups and say how amazing I am. You so desperately want that. And the way to get there is to provide outstanding service. But this is all part of selling, believe it or not, because sell is actually to serve. It's from Norwegian, to serve. It's all about the service. It's all about the customer service. But you can't be offering good customer service if you don't believe in your product, if you don't react and behave authentically. Every time somebody has a complaint and they come to you with a complaint, if you're not your authentic self, you get the nerves, right? You start to get that horrible feeling in your chest, possibly in the pit of your stomach. Everything starts to go haywire. You can feel the tingling happen. You can feel the shoulders lifting, all the shitty shit about anxiety. So, oh my gosh, I do this all the time, don't I? So raving fans and referrals is one of the easiest ways to continue to grow business. And in this day and age, maintenance is a 9% growth year over year, because you've got to think about it in terms of what is the cost of living? What is the stock market doing? You have to actually think of it in that, because if you just say, in 2020, I needed $2,000 a month to pay my bills, and that was what I needed in my business. And I liked having the extra $500. So $2,500 was absolutely beautiful and blissful to help me sustain the life I want. It's 2022. In only 2 years, the cost of living has almost doubled. I was looking it up on the weekend, a 47% increase in groceries. Double for fuel, double. So if you think about this, what you could survive on in 2020, that 2,500, now needs to be more like 3,500. Okay, so if you're only taking the actions and doing the things that you need to attract enough new business to stay at that 2,500, you're actually in die mode, not maintain mode. So we want to be very, very clear about what is maintenance once you get there. So having the raving fans and referrals is an excellent and easy, simple way to bring new business in that doesn't actually require a whole lot of work. It's actually effort you will already be putting in with your existing clients, right? So it's meant to be like an efficiency rather than something sneaky. It's actually an efficiency. I've offered you such outstanding service, and you now have such belief and faith in me that, first of all, you're going to buy my next course, right? I'm just joking. I'm not selling a next course, so I'm teasing. But you'll buy my next course. So the other day I put up a post, there's only 3 ways to grow your business. Either bring in more customers, like you have to have more new customers. You have to have each customer spend more for each visit, or they have to have more visits. It's that simple. So Tiffany, in your model, for example, with the distributor, and we were talking about how they will need to go and do the work for you. What if they don't? So we don't want to become reliant on people's efforts, on other people's efforts. We want to be relying on our efforts. And so we know that if we're offering outstanding service and results to our clients, and another one should have been results under the R. But if we're offering that to our clients, then we know they're going to be raving fans. We know they're going to refer. So we've really, in essence, almost killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Oh, these hiccups. Killed 2 birds with 1 stone, in the sense that we offered this great service in the execution of our promise to our first client. They then said, wow, I'm blown away. How amazing. You rock. I love you. Let me send my friend to you who I know has a similar problem that I know you can solve. You didn't have to chase. You didn't have to do all of the organic marketing. You didn't have to do all the lead generating activities. You just saved yourself all that time and brought on a new customer. So when another person is a raving fan who will refer, you save yourself time and money, right? So this is why it's so desirable. Not only do you get to grow your sales, you actually get to keep your cost base the same. So what that means is that raving fans and referrals create more profitable growth. And that is what we really, really want. So S is for sell, but it's not just sell in any way, shape, or form. It's sell the way you want to be sold to. You know, one of the reasons that I've spent so much time and effort trying to get you to really examine and know your ideal client is because we know that your ideal client is a former version of you. I think you probably know yourself pretty darn well, don't you? I bet you know exactly what it would take to convince you of an idea. Wait a minute, you've each been convinced to take on this business, right? So knowing that you had somebody convince you, if you want to use the word convince, somebody said something in such a way that it spoke to something in your soul, and you said, oh yes, yes, the time is now. I'm taking action now. So if your ideal client is a former version of you, right? The reason I'm getting you to focus in so much on who that person is because I know you know her intimately. You know what that person needs to hear. You know what information they want. And this is what I mean by sell the way you want to be sold to. So I won't send out cold DMs. I won't send out cold DMs because frankly, I can't stand it. I can't stand it when somebody is trying to sell me something in my, we don't even have a relationship, at least develop a relationship with me. So a person who sends me, hey Danielle, how are you? We're a new friend connection and it's so lovely to meet here. And then a week later says, hey, you know, I've been thinking about you. To me, that's not a cold DM. At least you waited, right? But it's one of the things that I don't teach, the whole cold DM process. Tanya does. So if you want to learn how to do cold DMs, let me know. I'll hook you up with my partner, Tanya, and she can teach you how to cold DM the shit out of people. But I won't do that. I've tried it. I hated it. I felt gross. I actually went off of social media for like a week straight because I felt so gross about it. I was scared. I was scared of what people were going to think of me. I was scared that I was damaging my potential to find and attract clients. I was scared I was going to develop a reputation as a cold DMer. And so because I had those fears, right? But the beautiful thing is, because I knew I didn't want that, I also knew I would not allow myself to do that again. I did try it a couple times, like I said, it just felt gross. So when I was launching full on in my coaching business, I decided absolutely not. Cold DMs are absolutely not part of this program. And it's not something I'm ever going to do to try to gain a client, ever. It's actually one of the reasons why I specifically say, hey, if you are interested, reach out. Because I am definitely more the kind of person that wants you to come to me. And so I make that offer available. So I've actually set it up in my messaging, in my content, that that's the process. You reach out to me. Even when I'm making friends in other groups and putting answers and things like that down, I have to get 2 or 3 back and forth deep before I say, hey, maybe we should take this conversation into the DMs, or, hey, I've got this great group where I teach a lot of this stuff. If you'd be interested, would you like me to invite you to that? Right. And I actually use that would you like me to question a lot, because then it actually is putting it back in their court. And that's part of the sell the way you want to be sold to. I'm trying to treat people the way I would want to be treated. So if you go back to that old adage, if you go back to the whole theological principles of treat others the way you want to be treated, that really is what I'm talking about here. But in this specific case, I'm talking, put yourself in sales scenarios about it, right? I'm sure you can imagine that T is for trust, right? What other word would it be? Would be T is for trust. And then U is for understand. It's not enough that you ask questions. It's not enough that you develop rapport. It's not enough. Staying on the surface is just not enough. It's super important that in order to be in a sales mindset, that you are committed to truly understanding the person. And I don't mean like you need to get to know them on a deep level that takes decades of time to get to know them, but I am saying that understanding who they are as a being, understanding what motivates them, what drives them, what scares them about this particular situation that they are considering hiring you for. You want to know it all. You don't want to leave anything uncovered. And the reason is, let's go back to hearing aids for another moment, because it's, again, the most recent. Great, I've sold you hearing aids. There's actually about a 6-month adaptation period. So if I had not managed that well, I'd get a lot of returns. Because if I had not spoken to people about what are their expectations out of this, right? If I hadn't spoken to them about what is it that they're most afraid of, if I haven't talked to them about what is it that's most important to them, what environments will they be listening the most, then what will really happen is, so let's talk about environments in particular. There are levels of technology in hearing aids. Top of the line will practically give you, normal hearing again. Not that it corrects your hearing, please, that's not what I'm saying, but it gives you this ability to hear things almost the way you did when you were younger, including filtering out background noise. I used to say to people that actually these advanced hearing aids, they actually give you an advantage over me with normal hearing because of the noise canceling issues. If this is a person that is constantly at trade shows or works in a busy restaurant, or I don't know, think of other busy places that a person can go. I can't believe I've already forgotten busy places. But if they spend a lot of their time in busy places, then they want the technology that's going to do that, because they will be highly dissatisfied with one that does not take out background noise. So asking a lot of questions and truly understanding what this person needs, be committed to understanding, not just in asking questions. If all you're doing is superficially just going through the process. Oh, I've got to ask this question. I've got to ask this question. I've got to ask this question. But you're not actually listening. See how these words all tie back to each other? This is why the book's going to be so awesome. You'll get a free copy. It's okay. Okay, digress again. So listening to understand is super critical rather than just listening to respond or listening to just give back what it is that you want to give. Beyond that, it's then we go into talking about value. Understanding will actually help you to be able to provide the value that that person needs as well. So we've got raving fans and referral questions, raving fans and referrals, sell like you want to be sold to, trust, understand, and value. Value goes well beyond just what is this worth in terms of money. Value is about what am I getting out of it? What's in it? So what? What's in it for me? Right? It's about the benefit to me as the person who's handing you money for it. So let's go back to the example of the guy whose wife is nagging him because he can't hear and he's embarrassed and he doesn't want people to know. For him, he goes and gets together with his male friends every Wednesday morning at a local coffee shop, and they sit there and they shoot the breeze for a few hours. They're all old farmers, and they like to get together because now that they're retired and they're not working so much, they like to get together and have those conversations. But it's a restaurant. Restaurants are noisy. In fact, restaurants are one of the hardest places of all for people to hear. It's one of the worst listening environments. It truly, truly is. So now I'm going to talk to him because he knows that he and a bunch of his friends, right? They're all in the same boat. And I can talk to him about, does this or doesn't this come up? And I can talk to him about how embarrassed he gets and has he noticed that he's actually shutting down more often, or that the bunch of them are getting so loud that people are actually looking at them like, geez, do you mind? Right? Because they're getting so loud, because people with hearing loss have loud voices because they aren't even aware that they're being loud. Anyway, so the value for him was actually about being able to reconnect with these friends that he was feeling disconnected from. They don't call each other on the phone. They used to. They don't call each other on the phone. And the reason is they can't hear each other. It's too difficult. So instead they go to this awful environment. But here's the beautiful thing. They can still sit there, and every once in a while somebody will say something, but the conversation had been getting less and less and less over the last couple of years. Do you know what ended up happening? This beautiful man actually sent all of his friends to me. Do you know what ended up happening? These men started an antique car club. I swear to you, this is what came out of it. So because I actually took the time to listen and understand what he valued the most, I was actually able to help him understand how my solution, understand how the solution that I was offering was actually going to help him achieve that. Had I not been listening to understand, if I'd only been listening to deliver the next line in my pitch, I would never have gotten that sale. And this is one of the things that I've come to realize over the years, is that all of these things are essential ingredients and they all work interconnectedly. It's not like you can just have authenticity, belief, and confidence. You have to have all of these other things as well. So it's a whole mindset, but it is all rooted in the money beliefs, because selling is about an exchange of money for a service or a good. And it's this fear of asking other people for their money, because money is hard earned. We trade time for money. Think about all the beliefs. Money's the root of all evil. Money can't buy me happiness. What are some of the others that you've heard, right? I'm going to keep going with those two because they're the most popular ones. And I don't want to give you beliefs. I don't want to go, oh, there's one. Look, my work is done here. No, I want you to actually do the work, because when you do the work, when you do that deep soul work to help bring that up, that's when we can actually transmute that. And what I mean by transmute is that's how we can actually change what it is that you think and believe, and we can actually change the energy frequency that it actually vibrates at. And our goal is to actually raise your vibration, because the higher your vibration is, the more attractive and appealing the universe finds you and then delivers things to you, right? So again, going to that abundance mindset. Okay, last couple of letters. V is for value. W, I'll let you take a moment to guess. Hopefully Hopefully you know what it is that I'm going to say, because I say this all the time. Start with why. Really, that W should have been at the beginning, but that's just not how the alphabet is laid out, right? I always want you to start with your why. Why am I doing this? Why did I go into business for myself? Why is this so important to me? Start there. Why are you doing this? You need to understand what it is. Now, Tiffany, when you look at Nathaniel, is that the reason you do this? Right? Teresa, why do you want to do this? Cheryl, why? Amy, why? And all the others that will watch this in the future. Why are you doing this? I know that for me, I am driven to help people. It sounds egotistical to say, I know I have a great gift. I know I have a great gift. I know I have a great gift. It's okay to say that. That's not actually inauthentic. It's not unhumble. I'm going to make up a bunch of words now. It's okay to recognize your own gift. I have a gift. And for me, I know that my gift is actually to pick people up and do this. It's to push them up. My gift is to empower people. And so for me, that's why I do this, because I want to empower as many possible women to get out there and kick butt and be self-sustaining and to be self-reliant and have the resilience and to never need to count on anybody again, to know their own worth, to know that they can do it for themselves, and to have that total belief in themselves and confidence. That's why I do it. That's why I do it. Because for me, that just fills my cup like you wouldn't believe. That's the kind of enthusiastic, excited, tear-filled that just makes me wake up in the morning. That's why I do it. So what's yours? What's your reason that you do this? Why? Why did you decide to do this? Right? So start there. X. Did you think I was going to make a? What do you think it is? X factor. You are the X factor. You, your authentic, unique self, you are the X factor. There's something special about you. What is that? So I want you to spend some time thinking about that. You don't have to go into too much detail because I know the homework is to do the abundance mindset, but shortly we're going to be talking about genius zone. And X factor is the genius zone, the specific thing about you that you bring to the table that nobody else can. There's something about you, and knowing what that is, and then capitalizing on it. And that doesn't need to be in a greedy way. So don't go slipping back into those old greedy, oh, sure, use anything, any means necessary. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about things like this empowerment thing that I do. That's my X factor, right? I have let people take credit for things that I did entirely myself. I don't care. So it's kind of one of my unique things, right? Is that ability to just be like, yeah, sure, whatever, off with it, enjoy. But it's about empowering people, letting them take the leg up off of my shoulder, off of my hand, off of my knee. That's mine. What's yours? What's your X factor? What is that incredibly special ingredient that you bring to the table? And how do we then showcase that? Because once we can have you believing in that, it allows you to show up even more authentically and even more confidently, right? And when you can be your authentic, confident self, people are drawn to you. They just are. I know they are. I know one of the things about me that people are drawn to is this confidence. It's not false confidence. Yeah, sure, I have things about myself that I think suck. But when it comes to business, I know my stuff. And so I do come across as very confident because I have total belief in what I know, right? All right. We're getting down to the wire here. We've got 2 letters left. Y. And I mean, like, you could have the letter Y. And if I knew Greek, I would say it for you in Greek, but I don't. So anybody who knows, send me a message. Yes. Y is for yes. Obviously, when we're selling, our objective is to receive as many yes as possible. Yes, I'll take your offer. Yes, I want to sign up with you. Yes, I want to purchase this. Yes, I'd love to have the extended warranty. Yes, I'll take the next batch. Yes, sign me up for the Smart Ship and Save. Yes, I'd love to become a distributor. yes, I want to get rid of pain. Yes, I want to eradicate mom guilt. Yes, I want to overcome my trauma. Yes, I'd like a healthier gut. Yes, I want to lose weight. Yes, I'd like to, well, gosh, I think I've covered all of your niches there with that one. But yes, 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 yes. So having a sales mindset is about focusing on the yes. So what is the opportunity? What is the positive? So trying to focus on those. I will say that to a degree, pain point selling is effective, but only in the sense of being aspirational. So I would say to somebody, so you're here, and how do you feel about that? Well, I don't like it. So that's the pain point. And how do you feel about it? Okay, I don't like it. All right. So now, if life could be like this, would that be desirable? Yes. So if I could show you how to overcome that without putting a lot of money into it, would you be interested? Yes. Uh, uh, so many ways to say yes, but it's all boils down to yes, right? So selling is definitely about yes. Our goal is to get as many yeses as possible. In fact, to get far more yeses than we do nos. And when we have a sales mindset, that happens. I think I have said a few times, yes, I'm sorry, I keep scratching my nose. I've said a few times that my career close rate is 83%. So that means over the course of almost 30 years, let's pretend I sold to only 100 people. I probably sold to more like 10,000. Out of 10,000 people, 8,300 said yes. Sure, 1,700 said no. So what? 8,300 said yes. Do you think I made more money off the 8,300 and focusing on those 8,300 and tomorrow getting up and going, yeah, I'll get the next 8,300 today? Yes, I did. Yes, 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 I did. So focusing on the yes, focusing on the what can I do rather than on what I can't do. That's really what focusing on the yes is all about. And remembering that your goal is to get to a yes. And then asking yourself, so what is the honest, integrous, authentic way that I can get there? I don't want to have to manipulate. I don't want to have to cajole. I don't want to have to convince. I just want them to see the value, believe in the value, right? And then say, yes, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you so much. I would like to go ahead. That's what we're going for. And then when we can do that, when we have all of the other alphabet letters in place, that's when we get to Z. Z is for Zen. Actually, I've actually got a couple of Z words, believe it. So I've got zealous. I've also got Zamboni because why not? We're Canadian, but Zen. So it's really important in selling that you find ways to create Zen. So I was saying before about that anxious physical response that we have sometimes going into things. And I'll be honest with you, I still get that anxious physical response. I don't want you to think that I'm constantly cool, calm, and collected. I had to have a conversation the other day with somebody, and I wasn't entirely sure I understood what it was that they were asking for. And shame on me because I went into that conversation a total bundle of nerves. However, thank goodness I had gone and done a little bit of Qigong before I picked up the phone, because it could have gone way off the rails. It could have gone so badly had I not done that. If I had gone into it with the nervous energy that I had, the other person would have absolutely picked up on that nervous energy. So creating this space of Zen calm is really helpful to being good at selling, because it allows you to not be reactive. It allows you to be responsive. Responsive is thoughtful. It means I listened to understand. I heard your concerns. I understood all of the different things that are important to you and that you value. And here's my response to that. Here's my recommendation for that, right? So it allows you bringing that tension down in your body, which is what Zen is. Bring that tension down actually helps you to be much more effective, as well as feel much calmer going into it. And I'm going to scratch my nose again. You won't believe this. Okay, So Cheryl, just FYI, I thought that the gut health protocol that you gave me made the seasonal allergies go away. It kind of has and it kind of hasn't, just FYI. So I was incorrect earlier in saying that it's completely gone because I've been scratching my nose like crazy since I said that. Anyway, so back to sales mindset and back to this week's homework. So this week's homework is to read the abundance mindset and to start doing those exercises and to specifically be writing down as we get ready for our next session, which we are having a session tomorrow, but Tiffany, you and I have already determined what we're talking about. So I know it won't be this. Teresa, it could be this. Amy, it could also be this. So let's bear that in mind. Having the sales mindset, though, just makes selling so much easier. And the reason that it makes it so much easier is because now you feel like you get to be authentically yourself. You don't have that weird thing happening where your brain and your intuition are having this war. This is, wait a minute, something's not right here. Something's not right here. Something's not right here. You don't get the nerves in your belly that you're concentrating on. You don't get the tension in your shoulders that you're concentrating on. You don't get the tinnitus. You don't get the crazy head tension that's happening, right? Instead, you get to go into things with this beautiful, bright, light, calm, cool, confident, believing and authentic person that you are. This wonderful being that you are gets to show up and be their authentic self. And who wouldn't want to buy from you? Of course they would want to buy from you. I work with each and every one of you, and I know that people want to buy from you because I would. It's why I chose you. Maybe that's why you chose me. All right, guys. I've probably talked on longer than I intended to, just in trying to speak it all out. I hope you find this helpful, because I'm going to be reintroducing these ideas, these philosophies, over the rest of the next 10 weeks. So every once in a while, you're going to hear me say one of those words. You're going to be like, oh, I know where she's going with that. All right. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Memorial Day for all of you who are in the US. Well, happy isn't really a good way to put that, is that since we're celebrating bravery and peacekeeping in many cases, as well as lost loved ones, to anger, hate, greed. Wasn't that appropriate that we would talk about a money mindset, or not a money mindset? Well, yeah, I guess it is a money mindset, but to talk about a sales mindset today of all days. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please send them to me in the DMs. Although I have said that we won't be having class at 7 p.m. tonight, I will still be available if you have questions, if you've watched this. And again, this is one of those kind of add-on topics, if you will. So this one's really more about getting your mind in order so that we can get the other things in order. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'm going to stop rambling now, and I'll talk to you very soon. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.